My name is Eleanor Vance, and I am 66 years old. For 42 years, my world revolved around one man, Arthur Vance. We built a life in the quiet suburbs of Silver Creek, a place where everyone knew your name, but no one knew your secrets. Arthur was a man of integrity and grit. Arthur was the kind of man who could fix anything with his hands. From a broken bicycle for a neighbor's child to a shattered heart after a long day, he always had the right tool. He ran a modest mechanical workshop that was more than just a business. It was the beating soul of our community. As I stood by his mahogany casket on a gray, rain-soaked Monday, I realized that the life I thought I knew was a beautifully constructed lie. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and damp earth. Every breath felt like I was inhaling lead. I felt completely hollow inside. Our sons, Julian and Caleb, stood across from me. Julian, the eldest, had always been driven by a hunger for more. He looked at our humble, honest life not with pride, but with a stinging embarrassment. He wanted to escape the grease and grime of Silver Creek at any cost. Julian moved to the city and became a high-stakes real estate developer. He married Claire, a woman whose jewelry cost more than our entire house. He traded his soul for glass towers and cold, hard cash. He hadn't visited us in months, claiming he was too busy with mergers and acquisitions. Caleb, the younger one, followed Julian like a silent shadow. He didn't have Julian's fire, but he had his brother's greed. He eventually became Julian's silent partner in business. Together, they represented everything Arthur and I had tried to raise them not to be: hollow and vain. During the funeral service, I watched them closely through my veil. Their grief seemed strangely rehearsed, like actors in a low-budget play. Julian kept checking his Rolex with an impatient flick of his wrist. It was as if he was waiting for a meeting that was more important than his father. Caleb's eyes darted around the cemetery constantly. He looked nervous, his fingers twitching at his sides. He looked like a man who was looking for the nearest exit. They had pressured Arthur for years to sell the workshop. They wanted to turn our legacy into a retirement community. "This shop is my breath, Eleanor," Arthur would always say when the boys pressured him. "Without it, I'm just a ghost." He refused to let them turn his life's work into a warehouse for the elderly. He fought them until the very end, but the pressure from his own sons was a heavy burden. The accident happened on a Tuesday, a day that started like any other. Arthur was meticulous with his work. He knew every bolt, gear, and safety valve in that shop by heart. He never made mistakes. Yet Julian called me that afternoon, screaming that a pressurized tank had exploded. When I arrived at the hospital, the sterile smell of bleach hit me like a wall. My sons were already there in the waiting room. They weren't praying. They were talking to doctors about quality of life and insurance beneficiaries. They hadn't even seen their father's face yet. Arthur spent 3 days in a deep coma. His face was hidden behind thick layers of white bandages. I sat by his side every hour, whispering stories of our youth and holding his hand. On the second night, something happened. I felt a sharp, desperate, and intentional squeeze of my hand. His lips moved under the bandages, but no sound came out. It was a silent plea, a desperate warning from the brink of death. When the nurses arrived, they dismissed it. "It's just an involuntary spasm, Mrs. Vance," they said. But I knew my husband. Arthur was trying to tell me something. Arthur wasn't just dying, he was being erased. He passed away at 4:37 a.m. on the third day, alone in the quiet hum of the machines. Within an hour of his death, Julian had already contacted a high-end funeral home and filed a massive insurance claim. The efficiency was chilling. Now, standing at the gravesite, the sound of the rain on the umbrellas was like a drumbeat. The pastor's words were a blur of empty comfort. Just as the first shovel of dirt hit the casket, a sound so final, it felt like a door slamming on my soul. My phone vibrated in my black purse. I pulled it out, expecting a condolence text from a neighbor. Instead, the message came from an unknown encrypted number. My heart skipped a beat as I read the words on the screen. I am alive. That is not me in the casket. Don't trust the boys. They are watching you. The phone nearly slipped from my trembling fingers. I looked up, gasping for air. Julian was staring at me, his eyes cold and calculating, as if he could read the message through the back of my phone. Caleb was nearby, whispering into his own phone, his face pale and tight. I didn't cry. I couldn't. A cold, hard realization settled in my chest, replacing the grief with a sharp, icy fear. If Arthur wasn't in that grave, then who was? And if Arthur was still alive, he was in grave danger. My own sons were the hunters, and I was their next target. I tucked the phone away and wiped a stray tear, feigning a sudden breakdown to hide my shock. I need to go home, I whispered to Julian. I can't stay here any longer. I needed to be alone to think, to breathe, and to find the truth before they found me. Of course, Mother, Julian said, his voice dripping with a fake, oily sympathy. We'll come by later this evening to discuss the paperwork for the estate. You shouldn't be alone. I knew what paperwork meant. They wanted the shop, and they wanted it now. As I drove back to our empty house, I noticed a black sedan parked a block away from the cemetery. It followed me at a distance, never getting too close, but never disappearing. They were already following me. The vultures were circling, waiting for me to stumble. I went inside, locked every door, and went straight to Arthur's old wooden desk in the den. If there was a truth to be found, it was buried here. My phone buzzed again with a new message. Check the bank records. See who's been moving the ghost money. I opened the bottom drawer of the desk, finding a secret compartment Julian never knew existed. Inside, I found a folder Arthur had labeled for Eleanor's eyes only. My hands shook as I opened it. The air in the room felt suddenly cold, as if Arthur was standing right behind me. The first thing I saw was a life insurance policy updated only 2 months ago. The coverage had been increased from $50,000 to $1 million. And the sole beneficiaries weren't me. They were Julian and Caleb. The trap had been set long before the explosion. I locked the front door of our house, leaning my back against the wood. The silence of the hallway felt heavy and unnatural. For decades, this house had been filled with the sounds of Arthur's humming and the clinking of his tools. Now, it felt like a trap designed to keep me contained. I moved to the window and peeked through the curtains. The black sedan was still there, parked under the shade of an old oak tree. I could see the faint glow of a cigarette ember from inside the car. They weren't even trying to hide anymore. They were waiting for me to make a move. My phone vibrated again, making me jump. It was another message from the unknown sender. Look in the basement. The old freezer behind the workbench. The key is hidden under the blue paint can on the top shelf. Was this a trick? Or was this Arthur's voice reaching out from the shadows? I grabbed a flashlight and headed toward the basement stairs. Each step groaned under my weight, echoing through the empty house. The basement was Arthur's sanctuary, filled with the smell of sawdust and WD-40. I found the blue paint can and a small, cold brass key taped to the bottom of it. I walked toward the back of the basement, where an ancient chest freezer stood. It hadn't been plugged in for years. My hands shook as I opened the padlock. The heavy lid creaked open, revealing a bundle wrapped in oil-stained rags. Inside was a digital voice recorder and a stack of bank statements. I pressed the play button. At first, there was only static, then a familiar, gravelly voice filled the cold air. Eleanor, if you are listening to this, the worst has happened. Our sons, they aren't the boys we raised. They've become something I don't recognize anymore. Arthur's voice sounded tired. Julian and Caleb got themselves into deep trouble with dangerous people. They owe millions to offshore developers. They tried to force me to sign over the deed to the workshop so they could use it as collateral for their debts. When I refused, I saw the look in Julian's eyes. I realized then that they would stop at nothing. I had to disappear, Eleanor. I had to make them believe their plan worked so I could stay alive long enough to gather the evidence needed to stop them for good. The accident in the workshop. It was a setup. They rigged the tank to blow while I was supposed to be working late. But I had a silent ally. Samuel, my old apprentice, helped me. We found a way to make it look like I was inside. The body they found. It wasn't mine, Eleanor. Samuel found a man who had already passed away, a drifter with no family, and we placed his remains there to fool them. I am hiding in a place they will never find. Keep this recorder safe. It contains the locations of the hidden accounts Julian used to launder money. Do not trust them, Eleanor. They will try to make you sign papers, but you are the only one who can bring them to justice now. Wait for the final signal. I love you more than life itself. The recording ended with a sharp click, leaving me in total darkness. Suddenly, I heard the heavy thud of the front door opening upstairs. Mother, are you home? It was Julian. His voice was loud, booming through the house. I hadn't heard him pull into the driveway. He must have parked down the street and snuck up to the house. I quickly tucked the recorder and the documents into the waistband of my skirt, covering them with my sweater. I turned off the flashlight and waited in the shadows of the basement. My breath came in short, jagged gasps. I could hear his footsteps moving right above my head. Mother, I know you're here. Your car is in the driveway, Julian called out. I heard the basement door creak open. A beam of light from his phone cut through the darkness, dancing across the concrete floor. Are you down there? What are you doing in the dark? I stepped out from behind a wooden pillar, trying to look as frail as possible. I was just checking the fuse box, Julian. The lights flickered earlier, I said, my voice cracking perfectly. He stopped halfway down the stairs, his silhouette blocking the light from the hallway. He looked at me for a long moment, searching my face for deception. You shouldn't be wandering around down here in the dark, Mother. You're exhausted. Let's go upstairs. I brought the estate attorney with me. His eyes were cold, like a predator's. I followed him up the stairs, feeling the weight of the recorder. In the living room sat a man in a sharp gray suit. He had a briefcase open on the coffee table, filled with legal forms. Caleb was also there, standing by the window, refusing to look me in the eye. This is Mr. Vance's associate, Marcus, Julian said. He's here to help settle the workshop's transition. Since Dad didn't leave a formal will, we need you to sign these emergency management papers so we can protect the assets from being frozen by the state. I looked at the papers. They weren't management forms. They were full transfers of ownership. If I signed, the workshop, the land, and even this house would belong to Julian's firm. I'm not in the right state of mind to read legal documents, Julian, I said firmly. It's just a formality, Mom, Caleb chimed in, his voice thin and nervous. It's for your own protection. We don't want creditors coming after you for Dad's business debts. Just sign here and we can take care of everything. You won't have to worry about a thing. I looked at my sons and saw two strangers. They were willing to render me homeless for cash. I'll look them over tomorrow, I said. I'm going to bed now. Please leave the house. I need to be alone with my grief. My heart was racing as I stood my ground. Julian's jaw tightened. The facade of the morning sun was crumbling. We need these signed tonight, Mother. The developers are pulling out if we don't have the deed by morning. Don't be difficult. We are trying to save what's left of this family. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I said, No, Julian, I replied, standing up with new strength. Now please, leave my house before I call the police. For a second, I saw a flash of pure, unadulterated rage in his eyes. He looked like he wanted to strike me. He leaned in close, his voice a low hiss. The police won't help you, Mother. Half the precinct is on our payroll. Just sign the papers, and we can all go back to being a family. He held out a gold pen, his hand steady and demanding. The silence was suffocating. The pressure in the room was almost physical. Julian stood so close I could smell his expensive cologne mixed with cold sweat. His eyes, once full of laughter, were now hollow like gun barrels. He held the pen out again, his fingers twitching with impatience. Sign it, Mom. One stroke of the pen and we can all go to sleep. Don't you want this nightmare to end? He whispered. His voice was oily, like a snake's. I looked at Caleb for help, but my younger son only stared at his polished shoes, avoiding my gaze. At that moment, my phone emitted a sharp notification sound. Julian froze. Who is texting you at this hour, Mother? All your friends were at the funeral, he asked suspiciously, reaching toward my pocket to grab the device. I stepped back quickly. It's from the church. Organizing the wake meal, I lied. Julian narrowed his eyes. Give me the phone, he commanded. His tone was no longer caring. It was the order of a master to a servant. He was losing his patience. No, Julian. This is my private space, I said, backing toward the kitchen. Rights? He laughed dryly. You have no rights in this house anymore. You're either with us or in our way. And those who get in the way of business don't last long. My heart skipped a beat. This was a confession. I knew if I didn't leave now, I would never leave alive. I need water. My throat is dry, I muttered. And without waiting for an answer, I ran into the kitchen and slammed the door behind me. With trembling hands, I checked the message from Leave through the attic window. Now. Caleb is at the back door, and he's not alone. Julian has mercenaries outside. Don't think, just run. I realized S was watching the house in real time. I heard Julian pounding on the kitchen door. Mother, open up! We're not done. I didn't answer. Instead, I rushed to the small door leading to the attic stairs. It was an old passage Arthur used when he wanted to work in peace and quiet. I flew up the narrow steps, adrenaline masking my exhaustion. Below, I heard a crash. Julian had kicked the door in. Caleb! She's in the attic. Intercept her in the backyard, he screamed. His rage was audible through the wooden floorboards. The attic smelled of dust and old paper. I ran to the small dormer window overlooking the garage roof. It was narrow and stiff, but fear gave me strength. I yanked the frame open, and the cool night air hit my face like a splash of cold water. Climbing onto the sloped roof, I felt the shingles slide under my shoes. My old knees ached, but I knew one wrong step meant the end. I slowly slid down toward the edge of the garage, where a thick lilac bush grew against the brick wall. Jumping into the soft dirt, I momentarily lost my orientation. A figure emerged from the shadows. I reached for the revolver in my pocket, but then heard a familiar whisper. Mom, quiet. It's me. It was Caleb. His face looked gaunt in the moonlight. Caleb, what are you doing? I gasped. He grabbed my hand and pulled me toward a dark SUV hidden in the trees. Julian went too far. He brought armed men. I didn't sign up for murdering my own mother. Quickly, get in. His voice was filled with panic. As I climbed into the back seat, I saw a man in a deep black hood behind the wheel. The car smelled of old tobacco and motor oil. Who is this, Caleb? I asked suspiciously. The car suddenly sped away, tires screeching on the asphalt. The driver pulled back his hood, looking into the rearview mirror. His face was crossed by an old scar, his eyes glowing with resolve. Hello, Mrs. Vance. Glad you're okay, he said in a low, cracked voice. It was Samuel, my husband's apprentice. Samuel, everyone thought you died in the blast with Arthur, I cried. He only gave a bitter smirk. Arthur saved me, Eleanor. He smelled something wrong minutes before the detonation. We got out through a hatch. We've been underground ever since. We flew past the black sedan parked on our street. I saw two men in suits jump out and run to their car. They're after us! I screamed. Caleb, sitting next to me, looked like he was going to be sick. Julian won't stop. He knows we're against him now. Where are we going? I asked, watching our house disappear. Samuel gripped the wheel, turning onto a deserted highway. To Shelter 4. It's an old warehouse Arthur bought under a fake name years ago. It's safe. And the answers are waiting there. Suddenly, the rear window exploded into millions of tiny shards. The sound of the gunshot followed a second later. Julian was standing in the road behind us with a pistol. He was shooting at his own family. "Get down!" Caleb shouted, shielding me. We sped through the darkness while bullets riddled the car's metal. I realized then that my life as I knew it was over. My son had become my executioner, and my husband was a ghost calling me from the shadows of a warehouse. But I had the truth. The roar of the engine drowned out the wind rushing through the broken glass. Caleb breathed heavily. "He actually shot at us," he whispered. Samuel steered the SUV through the pine forest until the pursuer's lights vanished behind the trees. Shelter 4 emerged from the dark like a massive beast. It was an old brick warehouse on the edge of Silver Creek's industrial zone. Samuel knew the secret entrance. Heavy steel gates rose with a groan and slammed shut, cutting us off from the world. Inside, it smelled of old metal and the same motor oil I felt on Arthur's clothes every evening for 40 years. In the far corner, behind stacks of old crates, a single lamp burned under a green shade, creating a small island of warmth in the cold. A man sat there on an old iron cot. His face was partially hidden by bandages, and his left arm was in a makeshift sling. When he raised his head, those piercing blue eyes I fell in love with at 20, I felt my legs give way beneath me. "Eleanor, I'm so sorry, dear," he croaked. His voice was weak, but it was my husband's voice. I rushed to him, crying and laughing. I touched his cheek, afraid he would vanish like a ghost. He was real. He was warm. My Arthur held my hands tightly. Arthur told me everything, and every word was like a knife. He found out about Julian's scheme a week before the explosion. Our son had secretly borrowed millions from developers using the shop as collateral. Arthur's refusal stood in the way of an empire. "Julian thought I was an old fool who knew nothing of cloud storage," Arthur said, grimacing in pain. "But Samuel helped me. We found out they planned an accident. We prepared an escape, but we didn't know they'd bring a body to fake my death." "Who was in the casket, Arthur?" I asked, shuddering. Arthur looked at Samuel, one of the mercenaries Julian hired. "The guy got too close to the tank while setting the detonator. Fate made the killer the victim of his own plan." Arthur took a battered silver USB drive from the table. "Everything is here, Eleanor. Julian's shell companies, his recorded conversations with officials, and proof he knew the mercenary died but used him anyway. This is cold-blooded betrayal." We didn't have time to talk. Outside, the screech of tires signaled the arrival of several cars. Powerful spotlights hit the boarded windows, thin beams of light piercing the cracks. Julian had found us. He wasn't waiting for morning to finish this. Through the walls, Julian's amplified voice boomed. There was no remorse, only icy rage. "Mom, come out! I know he's there. You're making a mistake. Give me the drive and we can settle this. If I give the command, there won't be a brick left." Caleb raised his shotgun, his hands steady now. "Dad, forgive me for being blind. I won't let him in." Samuel took a position at the door. Arthur handed me his old revolver. "Eleanor, protect the truth. Julian is no longer our son. He is a shadow." A heavy steel ram hit the warehouse doors. The walls shook. "We have 10 minutes until Sheriff Harrison arrives," Arthur whispered, looking at an old monitor connected to cameras. "We just have to hold on." But Julian knows it's now or never. Another hit. The doors began to bend. I gripped the revolver, feeling the cold metal. We stood in the dark, watching our own son try to destroy the last remnants of our world. I realized the Vance family story would end here, among rusted machines. The warehouse doors buckled on the fourth hit. With a deafening screech, the steel gave way, and a gate fell off its hinges. A flood of white light turned the attackers into black silhouettes. They looked like demons from another world. Julian entered first, gun in hand, his face a wax mask. Behind him stood 3 mercenaries in tactical gear. "Game over, Dad." "Mom!" Julian screamed, his voice breaking. "Give me the documents and I promise this will end quickly." Arthur slowly stood up, leaning on an old workbench. In the lamp's dim light, his bandages looked like a shroud. "You've come to kill your father a second time, Julian," his voice boomed. "First a bomb, now a bullet in front of your mother?" Julian hesitated for a moment, a shadow of the boy we once loved in his eyes. But it vanished. "It's your fault," he roared. "You stood in the way of progress. Your shop is a pile of junk, and I could turn this land to gold. You should have signed." Caleb stepped from the shadows, his shotgun aimed at his brother's chest. "Gold isn't worth blood, Julian," he said firmly. "I was a fool to listen to you. I helped you lie, but I won't let you be a murderer. The sheriff is 5 minutes away." Julian's face twisted in rage. He realized his younger brother had finally found a voice. "You were always weak, Caleb," he spat. "You think the law is on their side? My partners own the courts. That drive is the only thing that can hurt me. Take them." A mercenary raised a rifle, but Samuel was faster. He threw a heavy steel wrench at a spotlight by the door. Glass shattered, and the warehouse plunged into chaos and gloom. "Fire!" Julian shrieked, and the night was torn apart by gunshots. Bullets sang over my head, biting into wooden crates and sparking off the machines. I dropped to the concrete floor, shielding my head as Arthur had told me. The revolver in my hand felt incredibly heavy and cold as I prayed for it to end. Through the smoke, I saw Arthur. Despite his injuries, he moved toward Julian with terrifying resolve. He didn't fire. He walked toward his son like a conscience that couldn't be killed. Julian backed away, firing wildly in pure, primal fear. Suddenly, sirens wailed outside and the sky turned blue and red. A heavy sheriff's helicopter hovered above, pressing dust to the ground. "Police! Drop your weapons!" a voice boomed. The mercenaries, seeing the game was up, fled through the back. Julian was alone. He stood in the middle of the warehouse, clutching the USB drive to his chest as if it were his only salvation. Arthur walked up to him and simply held out his hand. "It's over, son. Stop running." Julian just broke down. He tried to run to a side exit but was tackled by SWAT officers. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut was the final note of this tragedy. I ran to Arthur and held him, feeling him sob. We won, but the price was burned into our hearts forever. The echoes of the gunshots faded, replaced by police flashlights and the boots of the SWAT team. Julian was let out in handcuffs, his expensive suit was stained with oil and brick dust. He no longer looked powerful. He looked like a trapped animal. Julian's trial was a shock to Silver Creek. The courtrooms were packed with press. I sat on the witness stand, clutching the recorder that saved our lives. Looking at my son in an orange jumpsuit, I felt only emptiness. He looked at me with contempt. The evidence on the USB drive was undeniable. Prosecutors unraveled a web of corruption, bribes, tax fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. Julian was sentenced to life in prison without parole. My son had traded his family for a concrete cell. Caleb served his time. His cooperation and the fact that he protected us helped soften his sentence. He received 5 years of probation. But his real punishment was the realization of his blindness. He spent months working hard to redeem himself. Arthur's recovery was long. The physical wounds healed, but the nightmares stayed. However, he didn't give up. We didn't sell the land. Instead, we used the insurance money to create the Vance Heritage Tech Center for local youth. A modern building rose where the old shop stood. There, Arthur, Caleb, and Samuel teach teenagers mechanics and honesty. Arthur tells his students, "A machine doesn't forgive laziness, but it always tells the truth. Be like a good machine." I found my calling too. I use our foundation to help elderly people who are victims of financial abuse by their own relatives. It's a bitter truth, but I share my story so they know they aren't alone. Family is no excuse for a crime. 5 years later, life in Silver Creek is peaceful. Claire, Julian's ex-wife, left the state and changed her name to start over. Our home is full of light again. We changed the locks, but our hearts are open to those who prove their loyalty. I am 71 now. Every evening, Arthur and I sit on our porch. It smells of jasmine and fresh coffee. We watch the sunset, and I feel the warmth of Arthur's hand in mine. His skin is rough from work, but it's the gentlest hand I've ever known. We lost one son to the world, but found another in Caleb, who finally became a decent man. We went through betrayal and fire to understand a simple truth. Legacy isn't money. It's the truth you leave behind and the people you helped up. When the sun disappears, I sometimes look at my phone. There are no more scary messages. The last archived text is from Arthur on the day the center opened. "We made it, Eleanor. We're home. True family is those who won't let you fall."